On behalf of all of us, my name is Beasley saying so long and enjoy your evening. Now down to Brendan Parker and Ryan Dittrick for tonight's Ram post-game show, brought to you by your Alberta Ram dealers.
Winning Motor Trend Truck of the Year 3 times in a row? That had never been done before. Then again, neither had a 12-inch touchscreen or 1,000 pound-feet of torque. Never been done before. It's just kind of our thing.
All right, welcome inside Flames Post-Game Live, brought to you by your Alberta Ram dealers. Brendan Parker alongside Ryan Dittrick, and it is a loss at the hands of the Los Angeles Kings tonight for the Calgary Flames. They fall 3-2 in a shootout, a game that was slow to get moving in terms of offensive chances and eventually goals, but got a fair share of it in the third period and eventually some pretty good looks into overtime and needed a shootout to finish this thing off. Lias Andersson scores the only goal of the shootout. Kings win it 3-2 as maybe just start with assessment of a hockey game that, had kind of a couple of different turns depending on what period we were in, but just your thoughts on what we saw here tonight.
I think first off, you got to give full credit to the LA Kings, who over the last 24 hours have come into Alberta and have, played two very structured, very disciplined hockey games. And it was a tough one. It was one of those nights where you're looking to kind of break through and get some of that open ice, but it was very difficult to try and navigate through some of the tight spaces. They did an excellent job, they being the LA Kings, of really locking things down, making life difficult, supporting the puck, not making anything easy or clean for the Flames on the breakouts and through the neutral zone. And that really limited some of their rush opportunities. That's kind of been their bread and butter over the past few weeks, and it just wasn't there tonight.
Yeah, it's interesting because, get the chance to talk to Oliver Shillington after the first period, and that was one of the first things he described was the clearly the neutral zone focus of the LA Kings, and something that they didn't get away from at all through the first 40 minutes. Things opened up a little bit in the third, as we talked about, just because of the nature. You start seeing some offense both ways, but did a pretty good job in that area throughout the entire game.
And we saw it for the Flames in bursts too, right? There were points in the second period when I think they started to turn the tide a little bit. They just weren't able to sustain over a long period of time. And, against a team like this where we know the matchups are going to be pretty tight, that's what you need to do. You need to build off your shifts, make sure you're creating havoc in their end zone and really kind of just manufacturing momentum. And that's what was sort of lacking. You got those bursts. They had it there for spurts, but then the LA Kings were sort of able to flip the script and put it back in their own end.
Interesting that over the last number of weeks, what have we been hearing from head coach Darryl Sutter about the type of hockey you're going to have to play?
Absolutely.
Consecutive nights here, you got the number one team in the West, Colorado, number one team in the NHL, but two top teams in the West in Colorado and Calgary. Saw that on Tuesday. Here we are again tonight, two top teams in the Pacific, and once again got one of those types of games here tonight, something that we should expect to see here over the next little while.
Yeah, playoff-style hockey, right? I mean, we saw it on Saturday, 14 goals between the Oilers and Flames. Maybe we're not going to see that so much in the postseason. We know it was great for the fans, and it was a heck of a night here at the Dome. But, yeah, it's those tight-checking, low-scoring games that you got to find success in. And on that note, Darryl Sutter talking over the past couple of days about the need for secondary scoring, right? We saw a little bit of that in the third period for the Flames. Eric Branson comes up big, the fourth line, starting to lean on the Kings a little bit. You're going to need more of that as you come down the stretch here because your top line, who's been so good all season long, can't carry the mail every night like they have been.
Do get a big power play goal from Johnny Gaudreau, and it was actually a lot of the second unit that was out there at the time. The puck actually deflects off Calle Yarncroke in the slot that goes right to Johnny Gaudreau. Well, let's take a look at the highlights as we start to describe them anyway. We'll start all the way back in the second period. It was a scoreless hockey game after one, but it didn't take long in that middle frame for the first goal to come, about 65 seconds in, and a nice play here by Adrian Kempe to find Alex Alafala going to the net.
How good has Kempe been this season for the injury-depleted Kings? That's another thing we haven't mentioned yet, but yeah, tough turnover there at the offensive blue line. That's the puck management we're talking about. You try to avoid it. Kings make him pay on the counter.
So 1-0 after 40 minutes. The lead would be in favor of the LA Kings, but here's the goal that we were talking about, and it's a point shot from Noah Hannafin that goes off Calle Yarncroke and then right to a man that's not shy on finding the back of the net this season.
So what's your bet? Was this an intentional kick pass from Calle Yarncroke there? Kind of falling backwards, but it couldn't have bounced any better, that's for sure.
Right to Johnny, and that's 31 on the season for Gaudreau. Tie hockey game, and then the Flames would continue to push. This one now near the latter half of the third period, and some nice work along the blue line from Eric Branson to find a shooting lane, gets it through, and it ends up, I think, going off an LA King in. It's hard to tell for sure, but a lot of traffic more important.
And getting pucks on net, and you got to like how that started too. Again, the fourth line, Milan Lucic, Sean Monahan, both have been sort of taking a little bit of heat lately, playing that straight line game, getting the puck to the net. That's where the goals are going to come.
A couple of really good shifts in the third period from that fourth line, but LA not going anywhere, and this is a beautiful play down low below the goal line. Philip Deneau finds Victor Arvidsson to tie it up.
Again, Darryl Sutter talking this morning about how the Kings have been able to be so resilient through all the injuries. Those two guys right there, Philip Deneau, Victor Arvidsson, great pickups. A little bit of chemistry forming there as well. Tough breakdown, though, for the Flames.
It sure is, and that's Arvidsson's 19th of the season. So here we are in the shootout. The first King shooter is Anderson, who goes between the legs of Jacob Markstrom. The last shooter with an opportunity to tie was Johnny Gaudreau, and Cal Peterson stops all three Calgary Flames shots he faces in the shootout. Didn't actually get one in the overtime frame. That's thanks in large part to a power play opportunity the Kings got near the start of that overtime session. But that's the difference in this hockey game, Elias Anderson. And we were just looking at it. He hasn't scored in a goal in the regular season here so far, but a big one. And that's an extra point for the Kings. You talk about the standings and how tight they are. Maybe not necessarily at the top. It's a 5-point gap with a couple games in hand. But that race of what we saw these two teams going at it, Edmonton Oilers and LA Kings last night, now they bumped that 1-point lead into a 3-er.
That's what they've been able to do over the past few weeks. So 8 regulars out of your lineup, including one of the best defensemen in the NHL, and Drew Doughty. That's a major hit, but kudos. Todd McClellan's done a great job with that group, and what they've been able to do, and you pointed out last night as well, maybe they're not winning as much as they were during some of their bigger stretches of the season, but they're grinding out points. So even if they didn't pick up the victory tonight, that's what you have to do at this time of year, especially through times of adversity. Get the games to overtime, start piling up the points where you can get them, because as we saw, the top 3 in the Pacific didn't move a whole lot over these past 24 hours, with every team getting at least a piece of it.
Well, you pointed it out. A lot of extras, a lot of freebie, not freebie points, obviously you got to earn them, but a lot of extra points being handed out over the last few nights here across the National Hockey League. It makes those playoff races interesting, right?
Yeah. No favors to the Edmonton Oilers tonight, that's for sure.
No, absolutely. All right, we'll continue along on the postgame show here, but let's first hear from the head coach of the Calgary Flames, Darryl Sutter, standing by. Let's get his thoughts on tonight's 3-2 loss to Los Angeles.
What was your assessment of this one?
They won the shootout.
What did you see from your group?
Thought we fought back. It was Johnny's power play goal was a big goal. Big kill in overtime.
Happy to take a point then out of this one?
Yeah, I thought we were sluggish at the start. I thought our top guys, particularly our face-offs, first period, they dominated us in face-offs, so they had quite a bit of possession in the first period.
It seemed like Dylan Dubé had a bit of jump tonight. He had 3 shots on goal. Did you notice anything positive from him and his line?
No, I mean, they were no different than any other line.
It seemed like the Colorado game and this game were pretty low event type checking games. How do you come out on top of those games that aren't back and forth and more low event?
Well, you got to, when you fight back, you're always fighting back. It's either tied down one or up one. So you fight back, and what they scored, they tied up with 4 or 5 minutes left, right? And that's a coverage goal.
On the first goal they scored, where Johnny has the one at the offensive blue line that he does.
We turned the puck over twice that shift.
Okay, so after something like that with one of your top guys, what do you look for after that? What do you want to see?
Johnny was good tonight. Carried the line.
All good? That's it. Thank you.
All right, short and sweet there from the head coach, Darryl Sutter, with his thoughts post-game, and obviously a couple of turnovers. But, those are the types of games we're talking about. When they're that tight, mistakes get exemplified just a little bit and amplified a little bit. But just, the fact that, they pushed, they fought back. That big goal, obviously, when it was hard to find offense from Johnny, and then they kind of built off that in the third.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about the Kings being able to grind away points. Well, we know the focus for this Flames team from the start is make the playoffs, if we make the playoffs. Obviously, they're in a very good position to do that and contend for the division title here, but their focus is the same. Grind points out. Find a way to be involved in games and give yourself an opportunity. So they may not have had their best stuff, especially through 40 minutes, but they were in a game, and all they needed was, in this case, a power play goal or a chance to go up by one, just a simple puck to the net. Those are the types of games you want to be in. You don't want to be run out of the building. There aren't going to be those nights at this time of year where you're doing the same to your opponent, but as long as you're in the game, you got a chance to win them.
Well said, and one of the areas that the Los Angeles Kings did a really good job of, and we talk about some of those momentum shifts throughout the course of the second period.
Yeah.
Even though you had the momentum, a lot of offensive zone time, the block shots. I think LA was able to find their way into shooting lanes, and that's why I think you give a lot of credit to Eric and Branson on that second goal to get that shot through. But just kind of a commitment from the LA Kings throughout this game of just getting in the way of shots.
Yeah, what did the shot total finish at? I think it was 28-26, right? So it was kind of a focus actually going back to your pregame show today about how both of these teams, LA in particular, very much a shot volume team. And we saw it last night in Edmonton where the shot count was piling up pretty quickly. So yeah, both teams were doing a good job of limiting ice. We give credit to the Kings, but the Flames kind of gave it right back. And again, that is playoff hockey, not to rehash the point, but it is true. And like we said, if you can stick to that throughout a full 60, 65 minutes, you've given yourself a chance.
Yeah, I think the stat is now updated after tonight because the shots were 6-0 in the overtime period, as we mentioned, that due in large part to the fact they ended up getting a power play there. But they outshoot the Calgary Flames, so now 23 of the last 24 games, they've outshot the opposition. So you talk about shot volume. I mean, that's one way to make sure that you're getting opportunities, you're getting looks in the offensive zone is just hanging on to the pucks and obviously getting lots of shots through.
And not to mention when you have a bunch of guys banged up too, right? Sometimes at this point in the season especially, you've got an influx of young players who are coming in. And you mentioned Elias Anderson hasn't found the net during a game yet this season. But if you're able to have that energy and keep your game simple, which I think we saw a little bit of from the Kings tonight, that's going to be your bread and butter because you've got you might not have the high level skill that you once had earlier in the season. You have to play with what you have and stay within the game that you can bring, but also the one your opponent gives to you.
All right, let's continue our post-game reaction here tonight and go right back to the podium, and let's hear from Johnny Gaudreau. He was one of the goal scorers here, tied the game up in the third period. Here's Johnny now.
I mean, Johnny, how did you kind of see that game play out? I know you guys had to come back from the 1-0. You scored that goal. I guess a bit of a tight back and forth game.
Yeah, we weren't very good tonight, I don't think. Kind of slow. Didn't really get much going in the first. Kind of a little bit of bad turnover by me there in the second. Guy knocked it out of the air, and then they went down and scored. Make it 1-0, then we were kind of chasing the rest of the game. But found a way to battle back, take the lead, and with 3 minutes left, they tied it up. So they're a desperate team trying to catch us in the standings. So we got to be ready for their little pushback there at the end of the third and try to win in overtime.
The play you referenced, like their first goal, you don't need to be told by anyone that puck was supposed to get in deep. So what do you make a note of doing for the rest of the night? Like, how do you just individually put that behind you?
I mean, it's a hockey play. I think it was Kopitar knocked it out of midair. Then they turn around and go down the other end. I should have stayed on the ice, obviously, try to back check, but I didn't think he deflected it and kind of thought it was going to the boards. They kind of transitioned pretty quickly, and just a mistake on my end. So, but we found a way to get the lead back and battle back throughout the game. Got a point in the game, but like I said, I mean, I got to get in. I know that, but I think Kopitar kind of made a decent play there, trying to knock it out of midair.
What makes that Kings team, they have a ton of injuries, what makes them so kind of hard? They're in second place for a reason. Like, what do you see from ice level? What makes them so good this year?
They play a good 1-3-1 game in the neutral zone. Kind of aggravates team at times, You find yourself, turning the puck over a lot of the time when you're trying to go through a neutral zone like that. So, that's exactly what we did there in the second there. Turned the puck over, they scored, made it 1-0. And then it's, but for us, I thought we played well down low against them. We just got to, playing against a neutral zone like that, we just got to get the puck in and then we grind them down low. And I thought we were really good kind of down low there towards the end of the second. And, but like I said, we can't try not to carry the puck through the neutral zone, just get it in there because it's difficult to get through a neutral zone like that.
Johnny, this team hasn't lost 2 in a row since mid-January, and I know you still got a point tonight, but how do you make sure it kind of stops there?
I mean, figure it out tomorrow. Obviously, everyone look in the mirror, kind of be a little bit better for next game. Obviously, like we said a couple of days ago, we got a tough week this week. We're playing against 3, real good teams. So, got a point out of each game so far, but we're not satisfied. We have a big game against St. Louis coming up on Saturday, so kind of forget about this one and go to work tomorrow and get ready for Saturday.
You talked about LA's desperation. Like, is it? You guys have worked hard to build yourself a cushion. Is it hard to match that desperation when you're in a good spot like you are?
No, I don't think so. I think we've been playing well all year long. I think we went through ups and downs. Obviously, a lot of teams do that, but I think tonight was we kind of slow tonight. But like I said, I mean, we found a way to get a point. That was huge. Wasn't one of our best games. Everyone in our locker room knows that, and we come to work tomorrow ready to get better and play against a good St. Louis team.
Is it a balance this time of year, and this can be for either of you, is it a balance this time of year to, focus on your game and what you guys need to do while also being acutely aware that there's desperate teams trying to catch you in the standings?
Yeah. I mean, we got to put our best foot forward every night. That's why, we've put a lot of work in this season to get our game to a place where we trust it and build that foundation. So we expect that of ourselves every night, and it's desperate time of year. Teams are trying to get into the playoffs, and teams that seem to be out of it are playing loose and playing good hockey. So every single night's a really tough night that we have to prepare heavily for, and we just got to get back to our foundation for 60 minutes here.
We talked about a lot, and you are feeling that the games right now, these March games now going into April, are different than they felt in kind of October, November.
Oh yeah, there's a gradual incline in the state of play and the level of play from the first game of the year that's played in the NHL to the last one. It's a constant incline for a number of teams, and that desperation, they become a lot more emotional at this time of the year, and as you guys have heard this word a lot, it's desperate times for a lot of teams. It's desperate times for us, and we gotta be the more desperate team every night.
I know this isn't top of mind right after a game, and especially one that doesn't end the way you want. You're going into the final month of the season, 5 points up in the division. Like, do you guys look at that and go, okay, we're exactly where we wanted to put ourselves?
To a certain extent, yes. The job's not done by any stretch of the imagination. We've heard from a lot of people. There's a lot of analytics. There's a lot of numbers that get thrown around, but we have a number in our head that we need to get to give ourselves that playoff berth, and we haven't got there yet. So there's a lot of work to be done.
Getting that point tonight, Eric. It's a nice play from the fourth line. Don't get a lot of attention lately, but to kind of help you get there, just comment on that play, what you saw.
Yeah, they went in and forechecked hard, took away any chance at a breakout, and ended up finding me open. So at that point, with the size of that line and those guys going to the net, you just got to get it past the first guy and put it on net, and good things can happen.
Thank you.
We call it the Ram 1500 Limited. But truth be told, there's nothing limited about it. Ram 1500, winner, J.D. Power Award for Best Driver Appeal.
All right, welcome back to the postgame show, brought to you by your Alberta Ram dealers. Quick update on the Western Conference standings. We've talked a lot about the conversation in the Pacific Division, how the last two nights have affected that. Obviously, LA does themselves a favor and moves 3 points clear of the Edmonton Oilers now for second place in the Pacific Division, and then 5 points behind the Calgary Flames. And then, of course, these two teams will meet again 5 days from now on Monday back in LA to round out season series. But anything stand out to you about conversations with Eric and Johnny, and then obviously the standings?
Well, first off, the standings. I mean, that's Nashville back in the top wildcard spot. I think yesterday St. Louis was hanging out there for the first time in a while. So still 15 games left for the Flames before we actually know what a potential first-round opponent would look like. But I can't help but keep my eye on it. It's you start watching a few more Predators, a few more Blues games, start to figure out what the May and June might look like. I don't know, but we'll see.
It's interesting, right? And obviously tonight, March 31st, so the final game of March, now into the final month of the NHL season. And just quickly before we actually, well, let's do it now. Actually,
let's do it.
So the podcast, Flames TV, has been rebranded. Flames TV, the podcast, is now up, and it'll be now featuring the post-game show after every game. So every time we have a home game, the post-game show will be uploaded there. So catch it wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Google, and Amazon.
It's a long
the whole
list.
thing. The whole thing. So we decided we got a little giveaway to help promote the podcast, obviously get you guys involved. That's a big part of the podcast. So on the post-game show here tonight, we've got the game-used Michael Backlund stick, signed right there by Michael Backlund as well on the blade. And why don't you tell us where we can get the details to have the opportunity to win said stick?
Super simple. Go to calgaryflames.com/podcast. We've added a little bit of information there tonight. There's what we're going to call a bonus code word, whatever we want to call it. So there's a code word on that page. Visit that page. Subscribe to our podcast, please. We really need the boost in numbers. We're struggling. Nah, I'm just kidding. But it'd be great to have you along for the ride. We have some great interviews with players, staff. Obviously, the post-game show is a part of it. So if you take that code word and you tweet it at me and Brendan on Twitter.
We're not going to tell it to you. You have to go find it yourself.
Secretive.
So don't,
So do that. Tweet us both. Over the next 24 hours,
we'll pick a winner.
And
you'll be the one of you. Someone will be the new owner of this Michael Backlund game use stick, signed, and we'll hand deliver it.
That's in good shape too.
Deets will hand deliver.
Right. You can put that one on the wall or use it. I mean, I was thinking about it. I'm a lefty personally, so
there you go.
It takes a lot of.
Still in good shape.
You know what? I was, thought about putting it in the trunk, but I have a little bit more discipline than that. I figured I'd pivot to you, the listener.
So generous.
Got to pass on some of the good vibes.
CalgaryFlames.com/podcast. So find the code word, send it to myself, Ryan Dittrick, on Twitter. We'll pick a winner in the next 24 hours. So sometime tomorrow we will deliver that stick, or at least tell you you've won the stick. And appreciate all the viewers tuning in on the post-game show, and all the listeners as well on the podcast. As for us here tonight, we'll wrap up a 3-2 Los Angeles Kings victory in a shootout tonight. Flames TV Live. It was Elias Anderson who gets the difference maker in the extra frame, and the Calgary Flames will now reset and finish up this 6-game homestand coming up on Saturday night, and another opportunity to see the Kings in just about 5 days from now back in Los Angeles on Monday. As for us, it'll be the St. Louis Blues here on Saturday to round out this 6-game homestand. Thanks for watching Flames Postgame Live, brought to you by your Alberta Ram dealers. We'll see you on Saturday, right back here at the Dome.